Okay, how's everybody doing? So, as the title suggests, Boomer Boxcar, I would like to introduce this O scale, which I think is common to the Boomer, and it was something that I did many decades ago. I used to model in O, Proto 48, and W5, like 5 foot wide. But I like the 4 foot 8.5 standard when I'm modeling in O scale. I know it's niche-y and not maybe a well cataloged scale compared to HO. I love HO for more reasons than one, namely or primarily because I can model the scope that I see, like in the real world, like that's important, like that, you know, that the scale suits what you envision. Now, with a model like this O scale, as superb as it is, and I'm going to show you how to transform this car into the car that I've finished, but I want to show you how I detailed it, how I painted and weathered it, and talk about some of the references I've used. Just a really good comprehensive coverage on how to custom and super detail one of these exceptionally great models into an even better model, or a model that you know, actually turns out to be quite stunning. Okay, and I'll just show you the finished boxcar here. And it's by Intermountain Railway, this kit, by the way. So if you can still find these kits, they are superb models. Like, I don't think there's anything better, actually, unless you scratch build the car entirely yourself. For a 40-foot AAR car, and they make other versions as well, these are actually quite sought after now, if you can find them. I was fortunate to find 2 of them, or sorry, half a dozen of them in the back corner of a dusty, well, I wouldn't say dusty hobby shop. It's a local hobby shop, a new one, Intercity Trains and Hobbies. And they have all the scales, and what a great shop it is. And I found these, and the owner kind of smirked and said, you better snap them up while they're still available. And he was right, because I went back the other day and they were all gone. I was going to grab what was left, and they're all gone. So I want to show you how I detailed this car, how I painted it, and as a bonus I want to show you how I'm going to build a little display stand with the scratch built ties and tie plates. And this is a Canadian type version, and it's based on a series of photos from this particular publication, which is excellent, by the way, by Richard Yaremko. And there are other photographers in here, and you know, that I'll point reference and credit to, like Charles Bohai here, and others that I used to model this car after. This one by Brian Sermon in Jasper, Alberta. You know, the advantage of doing O scale is that the you know, the skills and the experience that you acquire is transferable to HO and S scale, 1/24, etc. But Proto 48, like, these kits are so impressive. Like, they come with different wheel sets. These couplers were aftermarket San Juan, which are hard to beat. Actually, the detail are superb with functioning drop pins, and I mean, they're just incredible. And the wheel sets, it comes with 2 wheel sets. These, I don't know if these are exactly prototypical wide treads, but they're pretty close. But they are Proto 48 though. They're 4 foot 8.5 between the flanges, which is really nice. And that is the beauty of O scale, is just, it's a superb scale to work in. And I really enjoyed this build, and this is more probably, well, for all the subscribers, but most notably my you know, older friends, the Boomer guys that are familiar with O and have mentioned in the past, why don't you model an O? And I had already said I have modeled an O, but it just happens to be that River Road is based on HO scale for more reasons than one, as I mentioned, for footprint and scope, etc. But can you imagine modeling a shelf layout like a Teamster track, you know, with a 060 or a first gen diesel with, you know, half a dozen of these cars with a small grain elevator, or, you know, just a small industry with the sound and everything too. The sky's the limit with this scale, and it's a stunning scale to work in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this, and I'm going to show you how I converted this Intermountain Railway Company car into this beautiful little 40-foot weathered Canadian National Railway grain car, actually. Okay. Okay, so you can see I'm using number 126, 20 thou by 125, which is about roughly an inch thick in O scale. The nice thing about O scale is you can actually get more accurate now in 148. It's a beautiful scale to work in. So you can see that I've attached this one plank, and I'll let it overrun a bit because it does come out a bit, but I'll nibble that off when I frame the landing here. It comes out a little ways, cantilevers out, so I'll just leave this proud for now and cut it down when I install the brackets there. So I got the first plank on, so in order to get it straight, you can see it's loose there. I'm just going to pull it tight and then just tag this end. That way it'll be nice and straight. Okay, and then I can just lift the center and just capillary cement underneath the middle sections. And then I'll push up these little metal brackets here. Once these two anchor points get done. The kit doesn't come with this work here that I've added. Just to, if I haven't missed it, you can see it's just got 4 pins. You just drill and push it in. But that's not the way they are. And I figure in this scale, it's nice to add this detail if you're going to see it. So you can see I'm doing one at a time. Just push that down. So the idea behind this particular car, it's already sort of pre-painted. I'm going to weather it as painted, just weather it down. It's not an undeck technically, but all these cars that you see right here, just show you this quick. See this? Photo by Stafford Swain. So 1988. Oh, sorry. 1988, 1987. 1987, 1987. So this is the period that I'm modeling this car in. So it's going to be quite heavily weathered. In fact, it's probably going to be, see, this is a really good book. It shows you the different roofs. So this is a Murphy raised panel roof with dreadnought end on the car. They have different ends, even though they look the same, but if you study them, they're quite a bit different. And then this car is going to be quite heavily weathered. Probably similar to this or this. Okay, so the first and only plastic you'll need for this conversion or modification is number 103 by Evergreen Plastics. Okay, Evergreen scale models, made for model railroading, scale models, etc. 10 thou by 60 thou strip, and you just need 2 short pieces. I made them a little bit longer, so if you want to see how long they are on a basic ruler, they're about 3 inches long. Okay, and that's all you need to do this, okay? Okay, and there's just gluing those in place and then a small modification on the door, which I'll show you in a minute. So what you do is you take the car like this, and I like to just scrape the paint off where you're going to glue this plastic to. Okay, so I just take a knife and just drag it. All you need is maybe 1 or 2 passes, and it'll take enough of the paint off so the cement which I'm going to use is going to be this here, this Plastruck weld, okay? General purpose plastic solvent, okay? Now, so I'll do the top one. And then I'll do this bottom one as well. Now I've glued pieces on this without removing the paint. This, I don't know what kind of paint this is, but it seems to disintegrate when it comes in contact with solvent. So, but if you're going to do a door track that's going to be subject to pressure and so on, I would recommend that you scrape the paint off. So now one other thing I also like to do is to take the plastic and just knock the surface down on your bench, just give it a couple of strokes just to put a little bit of a grain into it. It helps the solvent to bite a lot better, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put a little bit of a bead here just to start, and underneath here. Make sure it's wet, okay? And just get it started on there. Don't worry about gluing it all the way along. And then also try to make sure that it's flush to the top of this bar right here, this rail that's attached to the side of the car. You want to make sure it's flush on the top, okay? I'll do this one as well. And you'll notice that I left a little bit, I made the piece a little bit longer just so I can pull on the strip when I lay it in. You'll see. Just want to get it started. Okay, so while that's drying, I want to show you how I modified the door, okay? Okay, so here's the door, and as it stands, the door is pretty good, but there's only one little modification you have to make if you want to lock the bottom of the door in a track. Now, if you just want to have the top locked in and the bottom just floating, then you don't have to do what I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Okay, but if you do it this way, then you know the door is not going to fall out. So you'll see there's these two journals where the two runners, like there's these two attachment points, or I'll show you on this car. You can see where they attach right here. This one and this one where the handle is. They're retainers for the door, right? Okay, but those won't work unless you put this bar strip in, okay? Because they won't hold the track like the door in the track, because there is no track. It's just a bar, a flat bar, okay? So what you need to do is you just need to take these and then just at the bottom of the hole, just cut a small line into the surface of the door plate. Gently there. And then right there. And then take this number 18 blade and come in like this, just on an angle, and just push in on the corner, okay? And then come on the other side here, and then just gently rock it back and forth, push in on the corner, push in on the corner, just gently, and pop that out, okay? See that? And then what you want to do is just maybe clean that up a little bit. I like to scrape it with a number 11. So that it's flush, and then do the other side, and then I'll show you how we'll finish that off. So I haven't put these bottom retainers on yet, but you don't need to put them on yet. But you should put them on before you slide the door in. Just like the other side here, I'll show you. I'll just pop this out. This door is exactly the same. So let's take it like this. And you can see that it just slides into place. I didn't glue that one end piece right there. Forgot to. Now, just for safe measure, if you want, you can take the strip of the track like this, and you can just capillary in a little bead of solvent underneath that track. So if there's any little voids in there, that solvent will find its way into the bottom ledge of the track and ensure a really good bond. Okay, because sometimes you can miss, but it's easy enough to fix. Just check it later. So there you go. Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy to do. Pennies. It doesn't even cost pennies, like the amount of plastic that it uses. You just attach those retainers on there and you got yourself a functioning boxcar with opening and closing doors. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk about putting these trucks together on this Intermountain Railway kit. Now, these are beautiful trucks, right? They really are. I mean, they're as good as they get, I think. And like, well, I mean, KD does real springs in HO, and I know there's brass versions of these. Over the years, I remember it's been over 20 years now since I've really wrestled with O scale. And I say wrestle because this was a wrestling match. I'm going to show you why. They don't give you very good, well, they give you instructions, but it's all just text. And you got to, it's like a biblical text. You know, you got to, I'm not kidding you, to try to interpret it is just a whole nother ballgame. And the one thing that I had to eliminate in order to get this built, I want to show you something. So this is one of the parts as well. It's called the spring tray. Okay. And I never used them because I'll tell you why in a minute. I managed to get these together, but I almost gave up like just for the day. Because by the time I got these together, I got the spring tray in there, it just jammed up the whole truck. There was no movement. Like there's supposed to be play with these, right? Like there's supposed to be like a certain amount of, see how there's movement there? So that the truck tracks smoothly, right? Like, I mean, that's the idea behind that. If they're totally stiff and rigid, then they don't track as well. And it's more noticeable on larger scales, not so much on smaller, because they go bumpity bump and the physics is to be expected. Like with N scale, you get the wobble or the funny physics because everything's so small. But the larger you get, the more physics come into play. You know, you get closer to the one-to-one. As you get closer to the one-to-one, things like real springs and all that really matter, and weight, etc. But anyway, these were a real challenge to put together. And I'll show you why. But I'm going to show you that once you do them, they're not too bad, okay? Okay, so without going into the instructions, as I mentioned earlier, a photo helps. It's good to have some photo reference. But I only needed that because I was trying to interpret that spring tray. And the funny thing is the spring tray is already built onto this bottom bolster here. Let me just move these wheels out of the way. I'll leave that one there so you can sort of see it. And then the top has little bosses on it as well to retain this the spring. I'll call these spring plugs because they're not functional. They're just sort of a plug. Okay, so I'll show you how you put these together. So you take a side frame like this, okay, and you'll notice that you got to slide this main bolster in and then up into place like that, okay, because there's no other way you're going to get it in. All right, so it goes in the bottom here where there's room, and then it tucks up like that, okay. So after you get that one, and you got to do the other side as well. But what I want to do is put this bottom one in first, okay? So it goes in, you want the tray facing the bottom side of this bolster where the springs are going to go. So what you do is you slide this in now, and it's a bit of a snug fit. It flexes a bit. You got to push it all the way through like that. Okay. So you got this upper bolster floating there, and then this you've shoved in, right? It's not going to come out because it's fat on both ends, and you sort of have to pressure fit it through. Okay. So now I'm going to grab the other side frame, and I'm going to slide it in like this. So it too goes up into place like that. Okay. Now what you do is you take this bottom bolster and you want to slide it into the bottom, push from the other side so it pops in like that. So now you have, like, here's the truck with the springs in it, so it's fairly rigid now. But when you pop these springs in and the brake shoe assemblies, that's what kind of ties it all together in between these two bolsters. Now the question is, how do I get those springs in there? How do I get, right? Like, they explain that, but it took some trial and error. This is the thing, when you do a lot of scratch building, like I've been scratch building mostly over my career as a model maker, etc., and just as a hobbyist too. I mean, I still love kits and everything. But you get kind of spoiled because when you're scratch building, you're building from a draft, a drawing, or a photo, and you're making up your own instructions as you go. That's just in your head. But when you're trying to interpret somebody else's, even though it might have a really good design and be easy to put together for the designer, if you've never done them before, they can be quite a challenge. So they talked about using a pencil, about shoving a pencil in between here to bow this, like you have to bend this out to get the shoe assembly up inside here, and then you get them both in, and then you put the other springs on the outside. So I'll show you that. So what I did is I just took this little piece of plastic, which is I'll show you how wide it is. It's like 5 millimeters wide, or about 3/16, and then 3.5 millimeters, and just over 1/8. So what I do is I take this piece and I stuff it between the two bolsters like that, okay, to create that bow in there. This is quite flexible. This plastic is actually Delrin, so it doesn't break that easily, right? Now what I do is I take this now and I just turn it just to get a little more opening. See that? So now I take my brake assembly piece, spring, and make sure that these are with the springs facing, like, down on the lower side of the spring. Like, not like this. Like, you don't put them in facing up like that. You put them where they're hanging down like that. Okay? And the springs facing the inside of the truck on the inside. Okay? So what you do is you take this and you slide it in like this. Okay? And you rotate it so it sits in the track like that. And then you just slide it up into place like that. Okay? Now it's going to be loose while this bottom bolster is sprung like this. So let's put this one in the other side in the same way. Slide it in like that to clear the brake shoe, and then I like to grab with a pair of tweezers if you can. Well, you don't always have to, but that one seemed to roll nice. And then slide that one up into place. Okay, now that those are in place, turn this stick or the spacer back down and then pull it out. Okay, so see how they're sitting in place? See, it's all kind of loose, right? The whole assembly, see that? It's all wobbly and loose. It's supposed to be like that, right? That's the way functional trucks are like. They're floating. Like the real prototype is like that as well. I mean, there are other technical variations that aren't exact on the model, but You know, they float like that because it's the springs and the spring plates that really make the whole assembly rigid and flexible. Now, here's the problem. Before I pop these end spring plugs in, which really tightens up the whole truck when you put these little parts into here. In the instructions, it talks about putting this spring plate in the bottom here like this, okay? That you slide it in, that like this is where the challenge is. So now you got to get this in underneath the end of that bolster. And I'm telling you right now, I tried it and I got them in. It was a real bear to get them in. And it was so tight, the truck, that it deformed it. Like it just wouldn't sit right. Like they would bend out like that. And it was just so tight. It just didn't feel right. So I decided to heck with it. After breaking one of them as well, I just left it out. Because there's already a little bit of a space in there. Okay, so they can float. So what I do is I take this end spring now, and I basically just shove it in, and it pops in. Okay, I'll put the other one in this side. I couldn't get these in hardly with that spring plate in. Like, it was just unbelievable. And when I got it in, it was just a nightmare. Like, I was deflecting the whole side frame. So, see that there? See this? Watch. That's what you want, because when you put the wheels in, it pushes out and it stiffens up the whole truck. Okay? And that's the way the truck should be, like this. You should have some movement like that, okay? And then these are the brake pad braces, and they pop in the same way as the wheels do underneath, so that they look like here on those. See, those are easy to pop in. You can put a little spot of CA. It recommends in the instructions just to keep them upright, because they go up, and there's probably some kind of a bar under here somewhere, but it's not modeled on this particular model. So that's how you put those trucks together. And I didn't use this spring plate. I found that the spring plate would bind up the whole assembly and deform it. So if you've been able to build these Intermountain Railway O-scale trucks with the spring plates, please let me know in the comments below. I wasn't able to do it, and I find that the trucks are just fine the way they are without them, and you can't tell anyway, because the spring plate is already fairly simulated on the bottom of this bolster anyway. So, okay. Okay, so I just want to show you the wheel sets for this car. So, with these models, they come with these plastic, well, they come with the, you know, the high rail, fat, cheesy ones, and then they come with these, which are Proto 48. They're actually 4'8.5" to the inside of the wheel flange. Okay, so they're exact prototypical scale to the model, if that's what you want to do. Or you can run at 5 foot, which is O gauge, not O scale. So these are pretty good, right? But then there's these. You can get these metal ones from Northwest Shortline and or other model manufacturers. And they're quite weighty and they're beautiful. And you can see the, you know, the wheel treads are pretty close, but the metal ones on the bottom, this one, see how the wheel treads are a bit smaller? They're more scaled. These are true Proto 48 and they're insulated. Okay. Now I don't know if the axles, they look different diameters. Which one is correct, I'm not sure, but I bet you the Northwest Shortline ones are. But anyway, they're pretty good, these ones, and they're good for display purposes, and they probably take paint well because they're hard styrene plastic or, you know, injection molded. Now here's the truck with both wheels on them. Okay. And here's the plastic one. You can see how that spins. See that? They're scuffed up a bit. See there? See how they roll? That's the plastic, eh? Now here, look at these Northwest Shortline ones. Watch this. Spinning, 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 spinning. Just keeps on spinning. I'll tell you when it stops. Like it's not stopping. You can see it, right? See there? Oh, it finally rolled to a stop. So these are beautiful, and they just drop in easy in the same way these do. They're just very simple uh, exchanges on the wheels, and you can see that they're even I think the diameters actually, they might be just a tad smaller. Anyway, pretty nice, and it makes the trucks really nice to metal. You can feel the difference. So when you want to run these on your layout or whatever, then metal wheel sets is probably the way to go. Okay. Okay, so I just want to show you these O-scale San Juan Car Company couplers, and these are right here, number 5104 O-scale AAR E-type coupler scale shank. Okay, and these are just works of art. They're just things of beauty. I mean, if you look at the detail on these, I mean, they're just gorgeous. I have some brass ones by another company that's no longer in business that aren't even as nice as these. But the brass ones are nice. They're heavy and they're actually quite good. But these are of another level, higher than the brass ones. And meaning brass, like there's some good brass stuff here. I'll just talk about this in a sec. But these here, these air hoses, by called the Back Shop. Like this is back in the day, like in the California, right? People that really had a passion, you know, for the hobby, right? And these are beautiful little airlines. Like they have the little glad hand fitting, they got the rubber hose, and then the main line that comes off the back of the boxcar or the freight car in this case. And they're beautiful too. Okay, but these are just of another level. Like these are just gorgeous. Like here, I'll just show you quick. So they come on a sprue like that. You get 2 sets, 4 in the pack. And then you get little Delrin pins, right? They're not styrene, they're Delrin, so they don't break very easily. And they're kind of a, you know, that flexible plastic. See the little latch? There's a latch pin, a pin, and the knuckle and the coupler. And you can see, I just cut a little bit of an angle on the end of it. And once you get it started like this, here I'll show you. I'll just grab it with some tweezers and just push it down. There's no way that's coming out, and there's no glue needed, so the knuckle functions, right? So, and then there's this latch, which goes up in here like this, with the little pin eyelet for the coupler bar. All right, isn't that nice? That goes right up inside when that closes. Like those are just beautiful. Those will be going on this boxcar, so it'll be a nice little addition. Okay. Okay, so these are the San Juan couplers. You'll notice the pin. Watch the coupler trip pin for the knuckle. See there? And you move this coupler lift bar, and you see how it moves the pin up and down? So it actually functions and actually releases the knuckle enough so that they uncouple. Pretty cool, eh? Okay, so this is severe OCD, but hey, it's Proto 48 O scale, why not, right? So here's the coupler lift bar. See, I scratched it in under brass, see how it lifts? So there's a little link that goes from the coupler lift bar to the pin that actually functions on these couplers by San Juan. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take this very thin copper wire, which you can get at electronic shops. It's for winding wire armatures, etc. Or you can strip it. And let's see if I can get away with this on camera without blocking it. But I've done the other side, so if I fail on camera with this, then I'll show you the other side. So you just give that a squeeze. I bend it over like that. And then what I'm going to do is take these nippers. Sorry for the shadow. It's no room to get light in once your big fat hands are in the way. So there's that. And then let's pull that over more. And then let's bring this over top like that. Okay. I mean, I would never do this unless it was O scale, Proto 48, but that's half the fun. I mean, San Juan went to the trouble to make the model functional. See that? So let's just clip that off for now. And then let's just push it over. And this is just a brass 0.05 mil rod. Okay, and squeezed with a pair of flat pliers that crush the end of that rod flat, and then it bends nice and creates a little tab to wind that little copper latch. So now you can see how that moves. Like, see the coupler knuckle, how it moves? It releases the actual knuckle so it can decouple. Pretty cool, eh? And it goes down, up and down, just like the prototype. Very cool indeed.